It's going to capture a beam of light coming down. Two beams of light. Don't know why, but I wish I had better lighting, but I don't. Well, that's fine. I'll get better at this. I would like to have someone eventually that I talk to. I guess you can call that a podcast, but I would like to have a stage where I'm talking to someone when I'm doing this, so I can flow better and they can flow it well. We can hear other perspectives of people as the journey we all go on. I'd like to speak on mine, and I have things it's not even that I want to say. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning in the UK right now, and I was going to go to bed, and I was going to probably like try and play a game like I do at the end of my nights at the moment, but I just felt like I had things to say, didn't know what, and here I am. I just made the video about eye floaters, and basically what I was concluding in that was that you ultimately have to make a decision whether to accept it or to have the operation that we all know you can have. And if you don't, you'll just dwell and you'll be stuck in limbo, and that is a big part of what makes that disease worse. But also, a lot's happened to me in life, and it's not just the eye floaters, it's not just the brain damage, it's not just the paralysis and these things. And I think the way I'm going to start off a lot of this is to dissect who I am, because even if people don't watch it, I just like I said, I don't even know why I'm here talking on this camera. In some respects I just am, and it's just feels like I should, so I'm going to. And yeah, I think I should start off with the type of child I was, and the type of lifestyle I had as a little boy, and how I became the man I am now. And as a little boy, I was a very innocent soul. I thought in innocence, and I was very happy most of the time, but I also was very sad some of the time. I think I cried every day until about 16. But I used to look at myself in the mirror when I cried. I don't know if anyone else had that. I think that's very vulnerable people, the wrong side of vulnerability. There's always a double-edged sword onto all of this, and I was always seeking for attention as a young child, and if I saw other people have attention, I would either become comedic or jump about or something to get it back onto me. And I was good at it. I had many friends. I was loved by many of my friends, and I kind of didn't really have a care in the world, which is good. Kids are supposed to have that innocent period of their life, to recognise what the purity of joy is, to recognise why we experience joy as human beings. If you're a child these days who is brought up on an iPad and brought up on culture, you saturate the purity of a child and make them start to wonder and think if they're good enough at the age of like 5. And we have young girls now walking about at 14, 15 years old looking like they're trying to look like women. They're trying to look like a woman. And, it's just a sign of the loss of innocence in children. I mean, a 14, 15-year-old girl is a child. But they represent themselves as women. Well, the version of what they have perceived as a woman through media. And as a child, I had that innocent period. I had abuse, which many of us do these days. But, I still was able to maintain a sense of innocence for a long time until I would say 13. I was pretty innocent. I was naive in that innocence, and I kind of lived off it, which was nice, like I'm saying. But I, even at that age, realised I was full of love and care compared to some of the people around me, some of the children around me. And that's the purity, the difference of us all. We have different personalities from the womb, and some of it's biology and some of it's something else. And I lost my innocence quite heavily when I got to high school. In first school and middle school, from the age of 4 to 12, life was pretty good for me, and I can now reminisce on the parts I remember and recognise that it was beauty, and it was a joyful experience to be able to be like that as a child, considering so many of them aren't now. And but when I got to 13, 14 is when I hit the extremity with my understanding of the world and depression. I hit depression so hard that I had that thing where you don't see colour and everything is becoming black and white. I remember having a therapy session and I noticed that my everything was dull, and on the literal sense, colour had started to become duller and less beautiful to experience. And she said that can happen, and I remember looking around and thinking, my life's over. Of course it wasn't, beyond not, but I thought my life was over. The trauma of my old experiences hit me full force, and I remember I was walking home from school one day, and I'll say this, I remember walking to school in high school the first day, and I was walking there and I said to myself, silly, my mind played tricks and said to myself, you need to act different. You need to act like what I looked at as a man. You need to become that, and people will like you more. And it wasn't even a problem. I mean, I had loads of friends in middle school and first school. I was just a happy-go-lucky kid, and I guess people resonated off that stuff. And I walked into school, high school, and I placed upon a mask that ultimately was ultimately beautiful because I'm here now, but at the time destructive. And I pretended I was this big man, and I pretended I was sexually active, and I pretended I was this completely different human being, this false alpha. And it completely hit me back in the face. I remember doing silly little things, and all of the people in middle school who were my friends were just distancing themselves to me. I didn't realise it at the time, but they started just thinking I was probably a prick. And I remember my brother, he's 4 years older than me, and he dyed his hair I think he put like a streak of blonde in his hair, and I went into the bathroom and I saw that blonde still there, and I put a little flick in my hair. I just put like a little bit, and when I got back to school, everyone was like, I didn't know you were blonde, and I was like, oh yeah, it's the sun. And it was just so obviously not the sun, but because I was so enlaced into the mask of trying to be someone else, I became a compulsive liar, and I acted like a twat, no, it's the truth of what it was. And then I went into shock because I recognised that everyone around me wasn't wanting to be my friend anymore, and my life was starting to get quite terrible because I didn't really have any friends, and the people around me were distancing themselves from me. And so I went into shock and started to get bullied, started to have people, I guess, lash out on the character I was portraying. And I remember walking home one day and I was just so confused, and I still couldn't see it was me. I still couldn't see that I just needed to let go of this pantomime I was portraying on myself. And I asked this kid, I said to him, what is it? What's the problem? Why am I... Can you tell me why people don't like me? And he said, oh, it's your face, man. It's your face. And something clicked in my head. I was like, ding. And I literally ran home. I ran to the mirror at home. I literally ran there, opened the front door, looked into the mirror, and something that was going to take over my whole life, not my whole life, that a lot of my life, which was body dysmorphia, happened at that very moment. I saw a demon. I saw the mask. And I portrayed it as me. I thought it was me, and I looked at the face and I saw hell. I saw the worst human being you could possibly ever imagine. And I then fell into a pit of despair for so many years, for so long. When I got back to school, I was a shell, and because now people were clashing onto me, and you know what kids are like, they will bully anyone if you let them, and I became pretty much the number one target for a while. I became the person to bully, and I'm someone that wears their heart on their sleeve, and I would ask people, is it because of my face? And a lot of people would just go, yeah man, I fucking hate your face, I want to punch it. And it just distilled this idea that I have an incredibly evil face that people will want to destroy. And as a 14-year-old kid who, like I said, never really thought about things on a philosophical, intellectual... I mean, I didn't even know what 2 + 2 was. 2 + 2 at 11. Didn't even know. Because I was just up in the fairies. I was literally innocent. And now to be bombarded with the thought that you are the epitome of annoyance and people will want to destroy you because of this, I just fell hard into despair. And I didn't have the family structure, and I didn't have the lessons to be taught otherwise. In fact, I had family members say it was my face. So that's the type of people they could be. So I actually remember I'm now in school, agitated, shaky, and like a wounded animal, and people targeted it very heavily. And and this is all contextualized, and I say this to contextualize it. In middle school and first school, I was very popular, whatever that means. People loved me, people liked me, people got a lot out of me. I was confident, I didn't take no shit, I was funny, I was a class clown, all these things, and it just all washed away into a memory that I couldn't seem to ever get back to. And as this, in high school now, the first year, it just deteriorated and deteriorated into more despair. I would look at myself in a mirror about like 100 and something times a day. I'd look at myself in a mirror hundreds, 100 times a day. And some I would break. I remember in school I'd break them. I would cut them, you know, like put sharp index in them, and I guess they got replaced every couple of months. And at the beginning I don't think they knew who it was, but I guess in time they did, because I was the only person who would go to the toilet as much as I would ask, and all these things, it was obvious. And in home I broke a couple. But it became so disastrous that I had lost my sense of self. I had lost pretty much everything that I viewed as life. And I started to put my hand over my face, literally like this. Constant, like that. Just constant. I wouldn't take it off. The only time I would take it off is if I was alone. Or at home, I think. If I remember correctly, when I got home, I sometimes would do it, sometimes take it off, but I think it was mostly off. But at school, it was the only protection I had. To put my hand over my face seemed the most rational point of view. It seemed to... I guess some people started to pity me instead of wanting to bully me, now that you got this weirdo putting his hand across most of his face. But I still got heavily bullied, but, you know, I looked at it all very personal instead of just children being kids. And, yeah, it just destroyed my life for a long time. And to go back to depression, I remember the first notice that I was depressed was I was now feeling dark. I wasn't in therapy yet. I had just started to get bullied, like, to the intensity I was. And everything was dark and gloomy around me. And I got home, and what I used to do is I used to put a blanket over myself, kind of shake on my bed, and just be in terror. I was in constant state of terror. And I put Donnie Darko in the film Donnie Darko. And this film is about a youngish boy in high school having a very existential crisis, and the tone of the film really represents depression quite well. And I was watching this film, and I remember just wrapped up in this ball, literally shaking while watching the film. And when it ended, I actually saw in my mind's eye me falling off a cliff. And that cliff was me understanding that I was depressed. Understanding that everything has changed now. And that I'm never going to be the same person ever again. And it was terrifying. And I went through high school in this state of mind for a very long time. And I guess because I am a nice person, and I ultimately don't want bad for people, the people who got close to me while I was in this state started to care for me and started to see that I wasn't just this weird guy who, you know, was doing this to himself. He had something in him. You know, they started to see it. And I even had teachers bully me, which at the time I just couldn't believe, you know. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I had a support worker. I used to go to this place called Tops, and this is where all the like fucking degenerate kids, if you know what I mean. You know, the kids who would like try and kill people in fucking class. And I'm in there, and she would offer, children cups of tea and biscuits and all these things, and with me she never did. And in fact, she would bully me, and there was this helper in there, and I was doing my work, and all the kids around me were doing nonsense. They weren't working. They were drinking a cup of tea. They were. This woman would kind of allow terrible perspective on these children, and they were like, oh, I'm gonna go have a cigarette. She would just be like, yeah, dear, go. And I'm there doing my work with this woman, and she just literally just out of the blue goes, Grant, get out. And everyone's like, what? And I'm like, what the fuck? And the helper, she's like, you know what? No, Grant didn't do anything. And she goes, oh, excuse me. And she goes, she gets really aggressive, and she's like, Grant, get out of my class. And I'm like, you know what? You don't treat me the same. You don't, and it's just because I went there. She went outside and went right up to my face and just gave me a clear perspective of, I don't like you, mate, and I'll do what I want. And you know, this is just fucking mad to me. You can imagine. I'm just like, what is fucking going on in my life? And you know, when you go through hardships at the beginning, forefront hardships of your teenage life, you really see the type of family you have and what type of things they're able to cope with. And it took me a very long time to be able to get therapy. It took a very long time for my family to understand that. And actually, it was my stepfather. I remember there's a massive, you know, kind of like Spider-Man spider here, the one that like bit him on the hand. So I'm just making sure it doesn't. They're normally a bit more intelligent than the new ones, so hopefully it won't come to me. But yeah, I remember shaking. I was shaking all the time. Everything, like I said, was mostly black and white, and I was in trauma, complete state of trauma, never ending. I just went into my mum's room and I was like, Mum, I think I need therapy. And she was like, you don't need therapy. And Carl, my stepdad, he looked at her and he was like, no. Listen to what your... I think he literally said, listen to what your son's saying. He's not okay. He needs to... Something needs to happen. I think the reason at the time my mum found that very difficult is because she still had... well, I guess for a parent, you never want to hear that from your child, but she was in fear of the cycle of therapy, I assume. So I got therapy, yeah. But then, so that, you know, that challenge happened to me while I was a little boy, and a boy turning into a man. I got to college. Now I had stopped putting my hand over my head, and I used to wear a beanie that used to just take over most of my face, but the part of my face that I felt most comfortable with was my features. It used to be the eyes that I used to think people would want to kill, and that makes sense because it's the soul, isn't it? But now I used to wear a beanie, and I get to college and I'm just like still a shaky motherfucker, and I'm there with my best mate from school. Mostly, kind of, I had about 3 friends. But like I said, actually no, let me go back. In the end of high school, near year 11, people started to understand me. People started to just appreciate that I wasn't just this weird guy, and started to care more, which was beautiful, isn't it? What's this spider doing, man? What are you doing? They're so intelligent, but not. So yeah, I went into college like this, and I was still afraid. And I used to say to him, "Don't talk to other people on this course. Like, just don't go up to them." And he'd be like, you know, you could see he wanted to, but he really deeply cared for me, and he really wanted for me to feel okay. He wanted me to feel okay, which is so beautiful, isn't it? But we're sitting on the bench one day, and we've just had a class, and I'm shaking. I'm just like, what is... I can't do this again. It felt like it was going to happen again. And he said, look, I've talked to some of these guys, and they're actually good people, Grant. I think we could actually have a decent conversation with them, with some friendship with them. And I'm like, no. I'm like, don't go there. And he one night goes out with them and gets drunk, you know, as a teenager. And I'm at home, probably shaking. And he comes back and he's like, no, this is it, Grant. They're good people. There's some good people in here, and they're starting to like me, and you need to come along. So I did. I started to be their friend, and there was a Scouser called Liverpool. There was this Scouser called Robin, and he was the leader of our course at the time. And he was very open. He would literally he opened his hands up to literally everyone, and he said, "Look, guys, come with me." And we went to the street outside next to Bournemouth. We went on the street, and he was like, "Look, I smoke weed. Do you want to have a bit?" And you know, at the time now, I'm getting connected with new people. I haven't had this in years, like to this extent. And I'm like, I don't know. So I don't at the time. And then we go to a party, and they're all doing it, and I decide not to do it. But I think my friend Ed decided to do it. I've gone home now. When I used to go to parties, I used to like to abruptly kind of leave and then go and have my own journey, because I've had that, even if it took me like 4 hours, 5 hours to get home, just do it. And we had another party, and I'm now starting to become friends with these people, and we're all kind of the outsiders. We got this guy called Yoshi, this Jewish guy, quite Jewish, and I guess that made him bullied in England. And we got the Scouser, we got kind of the degenerate class, but we got some cool people in there as well. And they go buy weed. And that night I had a puff, and it changed a lot of my life. And I left that party abruptly, and I walking home miles and miles and miles to home, and I literally thought I saw a little boy on the street, and I was going like, "Go home, you need to go home, please," to nothing. And then I lied in the middle of the street where a car literally could have killed me, and then I just kept lying on the floor and just be like, "Whoa, like what is this?" But because I was drunk, I didn't get the actual full experience of what it was going to be like next time. And then the next time we went back to that street I was talking about, and he said, "Look, let me do this thing called blowback," where he puts it in his mouth and he blows it into my mouth. So I was like, alright, like that might be a good proper start for this. So I do that, and that's it. I remember it awakened the old Grant. It awakened that confident, high-spirited, funny guy. And I got addicted to weed because of that situation. It literally felt like I was reborn in a beautiful... I don't know if you've ever seen, not How High, the one with Dave Chappelle, and they're like little boys, and they're like smoking, they're like, "Oh, that didn't do anything." And then they're in the street, they go into the supermarket, and they're like, "Whoa," and they're like, "We were high, we were off our chain." It was literally like that scene, it was literally like that. I was just, boom, like, this is it. You know, and I started to be able to flirt with girls, and it was just brilliant at the time. And I literally felt like I was reborn. And I became this incredibly confident person again. And I was still traumatized by a lot of the things that had happened to my life, but I wasn't anywhere near the intellect to understand how to approach that and look at the internal. So yeah, I'm now this kid just getting high all the time and talking to girls. Come on. Yeah, do what you gotta do. Thank you. Yeah, I'm now this kid who is getting high all the time, talking to girls, and I get a girlfriend. And the first night I meet this girl, she was quite a sexual girl, which is sad. She did a strip fucking pole thing to me, and I'm just there like, okay. And yeah, like everything started to change. I became more confident. I made people laugh. I'm now like in Bournemouth, just a city, and I'm everything felt like it was working out. And then I met who I thought was going to be the love of my life, a girl called Amy, and I saw her online. And when you see someone, and yeah, it probably would have been perpetuated by a lot of lust. But, I saw something in her, and I need to talk to this girl. So I just messaged her a lot, and she was freaking out. But then I said, "Look, let me ring you. Just hear my voice." And then she was like, "Okay." So then I started to talk to her on the phone, and we just kind of got along like that. And then I said, look, I'll come to the school my old school, the one that I used to get bullied and I hadn't really been back. And I said, hey, let me come and pick you up one day and I'll walk you home. And she was like, yeah, okay, that sounds awesome. And I missed that day. I actually woke up like 15 minutes before I could get there. And I was like, oh, shit. And then I thought that was over, but then something inside myself, I was just like, nah, just go the next day. Don't even tell her, but just go the next day. So I went the next day and I was like, you Amy? She was like, yeah. I was like, hey, I'm Grant, like, let me walk you home. And then I'd walk her home every single day. You know, when you meet someone and you just, you know, sparks fly immediately and you're magnetized to each other's presence. We had that. And I was with this girl for years. I was with her for nearly 8 years. And I'm with her, but as I'm now with her, kind of getting out of college and having my friends and still having fun, still getting high, doing drinks and all this stuff that I think is nonsense now. I was trauma. I still had trauma. I still had a lot of trauma inside of me, and I would lash out at her, life, and all these things. And my life is now with this partner, going to college and stuff. I just finished college and I started to become quite spiritual. I don't know where it came from, but I started to become incredibly spiritual. And I just started to do a lot of things that are very present. I remember looking into a lot of different type of music and just being able to sit there for hours and just listen to it and recognize the sun on my skin and all these things. And I remember going to see a film called 12 Years a Slave, so whatever year that was, I'm there. And sorry, I'm freaking out at this fucking spider. Just relax. Yeah, and I remember at the end of the film I said, I need to move to Australia. So I get back to hers and I'm like crying and I'm like, I gotta move. And she's like, oh, what? Like, you know, what are you talking about? I'm like, look, I can see I need to be in the wild. I need to be in the middle of Australia. I just feel it. And I started to think, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to save up? So I got a job and I used to cycle a lot. And I was going to go get another job at the cinema. And I stopped at hers and you know, I say hi, good luck. And when I'm like halfway there, I get this thing in my head, and it's really hard to describe, but it felt like the capacity of how much I was able to be decreased. It felt like dehydration, but 10 times. And I was just like, oh. It was a really hot day, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? I kept going, did the interview, kind of got myself back. And I got the job. That night, we are at Amy's house with her family and mine to celebrate and just to celebrate our lives, and it's just beautiful. I remember literally not having a care in the world, and this was probably the first time I've had this now in years. And I just looked around and I just thought, I've got something going here. You know, I might stay with her. She might even come to Australia with me, type of thing. I'm thinking, I've got something going here. This is incredible. I love this. And her brother gave me an Xbox 360 to borrow, and I'm like walking in, and she's going to India very soon. She was going to India like in about a month. And while I walk into back home after having a nice dinner with her family and my family, I say to my mum, I just stop my mum and I say, look, this is the happiest I've ever been. I think I've ever been. I said, I don't think I've ever felt this happy in my life. She's like, that's amazing. And I was like, yeah, it is. I don't think I've ever felt like this in my whole entire life. And I wake up in the morning, my beautiful girlfriend's sleeping, I probably kiss her on the forehead, knowing me. And I go downstairs with my iPad, and that's when the eye floaters start. And that's when I notice my vision's deteriorating. And I notice my cognitive ability is starting to wither. And I panic, guys. I mean, I fucking panic as fuck. And you know when you just know something isn't okay and you know something isn't right? I knew something was dearly not okay. And we went to the eye doctors and he said, oh, he's fine, you know, like, he'll be fine. Like, it's just a little bit. And I'm seeing them now and they're proper prominent now. You know, I can't watch films that well and I can't do all these things. If you look now, I'm talking back. If you go back to the first ever eye floater video I've made, we're there now. Now we're there. And you can see I did a Wolf of Wall Street review. You know, I'm right, that's where I'm at. And everything changed again. And the depression hit me like a fucking tenfold again. And my body dysmorphia even came back. And because I think I was just so bitter and harsh and hated life so much that it started to go everywhere. And I remember I had 9 months having my family not believe this was happening to me. I had my family saying that it was my mental health playing up. And you know, when you're alone like that, and you know it's not just your mental health, and you know that you're now becoming ill, it's an incredibly difficult experience. And I was very lost. I was just broken human being. And I had days where I didn't sleep. And I remember my ex going to India, and she's like, Grant, I'm going, mate. Like, please say bye to me. You know when you have that depression where even lifting your finger hurts? I was there. I couldn't. So I just rolled over and I was like, my life fucking shattered. And now I'm lying in a bed for like 5 days. My eyes are deteriorating more and more. And I just feel like my life is completely over. I started playing the Walking Dead series on the Xbox 360 on low light. And I think that saved me slightly. Made me realise things. Made me realise I could feel comfortable again. And yeah, like, I'm going through this experience with my eye floaters now. And, you know, I'm pushing hard to look at evidence. And my ex is looking hard to look at evidence of how we can approach getting it seen. Because we realise they don't have the old version of eye floaters, which is obvious and it's in the middle of your eye because it's hollow inside. It's right at the back and we need to get a doctor to see this. And, you know, convincing my family it's not this and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of my family just didn't get it and would, you know, criticise. And we eventually got there, and we eventually even got to a doctor who said he was going to operate on my eyes, right? And at this point, I'm starting to get other things wrong with me, but I'm not processing it and not going there because I have eye floaters and this is literally taking over my life. I need to do something about it. But I started having aches in the pain, my body, and I remember like my fingers not really working properly and things. I remember trying to do this and it just wasn't I couldn't do it properly, and I just didn't want to think about it. So yeah, after about 10 months, I'm there in St. Thomas Hospital with my ex, you know, and we're sleeping in this well, I didn't even sleep that night, but we're in this hospital room, just like, you know, and the next outside of the window is like, that's where I'm having the operation, and we're supposed to just relax somehow. You know, and this is, I can reminisce back at who she was, and she was an incredibly beautiful human being who you know, the man who has her now, he treats her the way I should have. And yeah, and I have the operation and I'm thinking this could change my life, and I can't even express how hard it was to get the operation. I think every time I spoke to the doctor it was like, I've just climbed a mountain, you're going to give me this operation. Like, I was so there to get it. I was so like, you need to heed my fucking words here, doctor, you need to hear me. And he did. But he left me with, and he didn't do the operation, which means I could have sued them, but I didn't, because he said it would be him. And we left with this frill. I was left basically a curtain up here, and when I do this, I have a ball that does this. One day it'll probably attach, and I'll figure out how to be okay with that. And I'm freaking out because it's like basically not the same, but like I'm not fixed. And this is where I start noticing my family are pretty much getting like bloody hell. You know, like, jeez, this is not working out for him, is it? And we go back, and I'm like pleading to go back into that eye, and can you just please fix what you've done? And they say no, basically leave. And I've got the other eye deteriorating as well. And I didn't deal with stress, emotion, or anything well at all. I was never taught how to. That's the truth, you know. As a child, you're supposed to be taught these things, and I never did. And I'm there, shaking, like, fuck, my life is done now, like, in hindsight. But yeah, like, and my ex is like, let me know. And my mum is oddly shaken up, and she's like, look, we need to go. And I'm like, Mum, just let me. And she's like, no, and we're not okay. And my ex is trying to maintain this thing, and I just run away. I start running in the London train station. I run away from my mum. I run away from her. And I remember running, thinking, just something kill me. Just something kill me right now. And I got back to my mum. She's shaken up, and my mum, when trauma happens, you know, I think she finds it very difficult to break free. And about a month after this, I start getting brain damage. I start getting static in my vision, and I'm just done. I'm done. You know, this is where the life of being bedbound starts. Being just traumatic, and you start to get new symptoms with visual snow every couple of months, and it would be static, and then it would be tinnitus to the point where it was like a train going past, and each of these symptoms I was getting on top of, sorry, actually, no, I had static. I got static, and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, look, love, we need to get this other eye done. So we pay to get the other eye done, and I'm like, I just need to get it done. And I get left with retinal tear. And I remember being awake in the operation, and them doing it, and there's nurses around me, and I could somewhat see what's going on. And the guy goes, stop everything. And he goes, Grant, I've just teared the back of your eye open, and I'm you know, I need to fix it. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, but I'm going to try. And I kind of have an outer body experience. I had an out-of-body experience where it was like I was in the room watching it happen to me. Very odd. I can't really describe it, but that's kind of what I went through. Come out, and they're like, oh, I hope it went okay. And I'm like, it didn't. And now I'm left with, you know, missing parts of my vision, missing holes in my vision. And I'm now got the static. And you know, to go back to that night where I thought everything was beauty, to get to there, it was just dramatic. It was fucked up. And so I get back home, and I nearly commit suicide, and my ex takes me to the hospital, and they're like, it's the first time I ever noticed what I was doing to her. He's like, do you ever think, he's like, are you going to do it? And I'm like, I don't fucking know, do I? And I never speak to like people like that, because I'm quite a timid person when it comes to, I get introvert when I talk to professionals and stuff. And I said, I don't fucking know, do I? And he goes, well, if you're going to do it, because look what it's doing to her. Look what it's doing to her. And I look at my ex, and she must have been putting a brave face on for years. Years. And I look at my ex, and I didn't actually expect this to upset me. I guess I haven't thought about this in a while. And I just see it. I see what this whole situation's done to me and her. No, her. I see what the situation has done to her. And I think I put a brave face on and just pretended I wasn't as, just destroyed. And we get back, and I just want to hold her and stuff. But then I just fall again, and I get tinnitus, and I get tinnitus to the point where it's like a train going past my ear for, I think it was about 6 months. while I'm getting static, while I have these problems I'm just telling you all. And then my body starts to get incredibly fatigued and ill. And then I get more symptoms upon not being able to look at daylight, upon everything shaking, upon all these things in my vision. And this is where the turmoil happens between my family, and I had to leave because it was destroyed. You know, there's only so much people can take, and you have to all respect and understand that. You know, no matter what's happening to you, there is only so much other people can take. You're not taking it. Do you know what I mean? You're not even taking it. You're dying. You're fucked. You're not enjoying life. So to expect them to take it, you know, you can't. And I now live at hers, and I'm just getting all these symptoms, and I'm a hollow shell now. You know, I don't know what's happened to me. Everything has changed in my life. I'm just a hollow shell. And I started to go on a healing journey. And a lot of it didn't work. I did ice baths for 8 months. I was a vegan. I would only eat fruit. Then I would only juice. Then I would be fasting. Then I'd only eat meat. Then I'd only eat veg. Then I did 8 months of ice baths. Then I did yoga for 8 months, extremely. Then I did meditation. Then I did coffee enemas. Then I took multiple tablets. Then I don't know if you remember, I was in that red sauna. I would do sauna therapy. I just tried a lot. But while I was at hers, I was just literally a hollow shell. And I got fixated on looking for other symptoms because I didn't know what else to do. It was like, what is going on? And people started to resent me, completely understandably. People started to resent my presence, which is so understandable, right? And it got to I'd have little peaks and have valleys where me and her would have a couple of weeks where we could go out into the daylight, and we would just probably do it as much as we possibly could. And then, I actually forgot one of the most serious things that happened to me, which was after this operation that gave me a tear. I had a stabbing sensation in this eye. I can't actually remember how long because I had lost my mind at this stage, I think. But I had stabbing sensation in this eye for more than months. And that's when I think I was the most suicidal. Because there's only so much a human being can tolerate when it becomes pain. When it becomes chronic pain like that. There's only so much someone can take. And if it didn't end, I would have killed myself. There's no doubt about it. I would have had to. It would have been nothing else. And I remember my ex was asleep, and she hadn't slept in days. Because I used to wake her and just be frightened. And I was going to wake her to be like, I don't know what to do. And I didn't. And I remember just taking my hand away from her and looking on the internet, what's the easiest way of killing yourself? What is the way? And I found this website where it's this person who didn't do it. I think this is mad. He didn't do it, but he had a website of how to do it the most convenient, easy way for a human being. And he said, if you're in this country, this is what it is, pretty much. And it was the rope. It was to hang yourself. So I bought a rope, and this was the first time I hadn't actually even told. Like, I'm someone that always saw hope in these situations. Always thought there was going to be the light at the end of the tunnel. I really did. And even if it was so tiny and I'm not having any life, I just fought it. And this is the time I didn't say to anybody, I have bought a rope to kill myself. And I'll be honest, I was going to kill myself. I was going to destroy my life because, everything fell apart. And I had lightning bolts going all the time, like, which I still get sometimes. But that's what it was, it was with everything I've just said as well on top. Insanity, guys. Insanity. Insanity. And yeah, and this goes on, and this actually settles, and I can't even put into words what it was like when this settled. Can't even put it into words. But the thing I was most afraid of now was that coming back, and it would occasionally, and when it came back I would and I'm now having a good moment in my life, and me and my ex are walking about and the sun's hitting us, and anytime me and my ex had these moments of bliss for a while, it's like we fell in love again and moulded into one again. And I fell again, and she was going to India, and this is the stage where she was detaching from what was happening to me and noticing her life was getting destroyed now as well. Her life is now ending. She can't maintain her life, you know, and she started to actually get, you know, this is where I think sciences and everything. Why am I whispering? Sciences and everything. She started to get some symptoms that I had as well, which is crazy. And she was going to go to India to have a break and to explore India. And I'm now bedbound for I think about a week before she goes. And I come out of my bedroom about 12, and I don't think I have been out of my bedroom for a couple of days. And I noticed that if I look at something and look away, it sticks. I even have that right now, but I just don't care. It's crazy, isn't it? And I'm just like, and I lost my mind. And I go outside, and I'm like, it's like panicking. And there's these fairy lights, and I see my ex. And it pissed me off to see the fairy lights, because I used to say to my family, don't put lights like this around because it fucks me up, and it did. But, you know, you can't expect people to just abide by your disability like that. You just can't. It's just literally impossible, so you can't do it. And I see her making my dinner like this, and I see like that. She's done, guys. Like, she's done. And I get these lights, and I fucking fling them at the window. Bang, bang. And I'm just lost my mind now, and I take my clothes off. And I think the reason I took my clothes off was, you know, it's hard. You hear a lot of people who go lose their mind, take their clothes off. I can't answer why you do that. I don't know why I took them off. I don't think I'll ever know why I took my clothes off. I think it's just to just shred anything. You know, if I could take my hair off, I would have. If I could rip my skin, in fact, I started to try and rip my skin on the floor. I just wanted everything to go away. I wanted to just dissipate. And she comes down into the woods to try and find me, pitch black in the night. And I've lost my mind now, and I put my fists up to her. Don't punch her, but I put my fists up to her. And now I've kind of calmed down. I said, look at the stars with me. And she's just freaking out. And we go back inside. And she's got me, like, you know, and I'm back inside. And my parents are just fuming. And something makes me lose my mind again. And I think my mum comes up to say, how dare you do this to her. And, you know, I'm just not there. I'm somewhere else. I'm not okay. And I push my mum out of the room and shut the door, and she goes, right, that's it, call the police. And I'm like, what is going on, you know? And I don't think he even noticed. I think I was just like, help me, screaming at the door or something, like, help me. And the police come, and they arrest me. And I say, look, if I'm going with you, just let me put my mask on, because if I haven't slept tonight, and if I go out there and, you know, whatever, it's going to be very bad for me. It's going to be very painful. I'm not going to be okay. And I say to my ex, don't go to India. Don't go to India. I'll die. And this is I would say this is probably the lowest point of my life. It's just disaster. Just complete disaster. I guess the reason I'm getting upset is because, you know, it's big. And in hindsight, I see how many people I hurt. None of it was intentional, but you know, I hurt so many people's hearts. And I get out of jail and my ex has gone to India. And I get home and honourably my mum, she is able to forgive me, and she looks after me. She looked after me quite dearly while my ex was in India. And I think they most likely got the message that she didn't want to be back with me at this stage, but I hadn't. And I remember having a phone call with my ex, and she's in India, and you've got to understand that this girl hadn't been sleeping, had basically had her life become ruined, and now she's in India having freedom, which I believe is God, and it was perfect timing. We wouldn't have left each other, or something worse would have happened at least. So, and we have a fight on the phone. When she gets back from India, you know, I'm still very ill, but I'm humbler, and I'm ready to experience her again. But she doesn't want to see me. You know, I've been with this girl for... My iPad is running out of memory. I'll end this soon. I'll probably have a couple of more minutes. I guess this will be part 2 of it. Yeah, and I've been with this girl now for 8 years of my life. The iPad's playing up. And you know, it's ending. And I only knew her. Everyone else felt like they abandoned me, which they did. And she's now. And it's the most important thing that ever happened to me. And it was the most important thing that needed to happen for my recovery as a human being. As much as she gave me the love and care, and just so much of her, she poured so much of her soul to keep me going, it never allowed me to hit rock bottom, and it never allowed me to be independent and grow as a human being, to understand people. And yeah, so basically she doesn't want to see me. And one morning, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I go there, and I'm like, oh, let me see your daughter. And she says to me, and it's just hindsight again, you know. She says to me, you've come at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you say you love me. This isn't showing care, is it? This is selfish. And I'm like, no, you don't understand, like, things that you don't... And she's like, no, this is selfish. I'm going to call your mum, and she's going to come and get you. And I'm thinking, what is this girl do? You know, now it's so clear, and it's so obvious that I was just thinking about myself. But she had seen clear now, and she had seen what this had become, and good for her. Good for good for her. She completely deserved to see what I was doing to her. She deserved it, and she did it well. And yeah, I left and thought, and I said to her, you'll see a different man, like, I'm going to change. But it was too late, and that's good. At the time I didn't know it was good, but it was good, you know. I'm still suffering with all these symptoms and disease and shit, and fatigue and whatever. And 2 days before my birthday, she comes, and I'm thinking, whoa. And she breaks up with me and gives me my stuff back. And I go into complete shock, I think. I just go into shock for days. And I remember this one morning, I must have had about 2 hours sleep, woke up and I was like, oh, no, like, hate me, like, no. And then my brother heard it. And he goes, I think I woke him, but he goes, Grant, come here. And I'm like, no. And he's like, and he had felt, loss of love like this before with his first relationship, and I think he generally just felt it. And he goes, come here, come on, come here. And I'm on the floor and he's in his bed and I'm just like, what is going on? Like, no. And he's like, I think he's just like, it's okay. This happens. And I, for a while, thought my whole journey was to get her back. I thought that she was the love of my life. I thought that she was my queen. And I had been a fallen king and I'll rise again type of thing. But as the time went on, I felt it. I knew it deep down in my heart that we weren't supposed to ever be back together. And that this was done. But because it was, I had nothing else to attach myself to. I didn't know anything else at this time. All I knew was to be with her. Especially in the circumstances I've been talking about. She was the only person by my side, truly. And I started to do a healing process, strict healing process, where I ate this time and did this at this time, and healing and coffee enema. And you know what? It started to actually heal some of my symptoms. It did, and I think it was just because I was pure health, and whatever was happening to my brain had enough time to somewhat heal or just settle. And I remember going back there about 6 months later, and I'm like, thinking I'm this new man, and I'm like, to see me at this stage in day alone is mind-boggling to her. And I thought, and I get there and am I going to talk to her? And she's like, look, I'm dating someone. And I say to her, like, just give me the answer. Just tell me what I need to hear. And she says, I don't know what you need to hear. I don't know what you want me to say. And I said, I think you've said it. And I get up, and I still actually haven't fully understood that this was over. I remember after this thinking, oh, it's next door, it means it could be real again. But as, time goes on, and you become more independent, and you become more willing to be a man, and willing to internalize trauma and get through it, and realise that we don't choose what happens to in life we choose how we react to it, and strength fell upon me, and I just become wiser, I guess, and I appreciate life on a level I think someone like me never thought they could. I have just breathe, honestly, every single day. Whether my vision's terrible, whether I have fatigue, whether I'm feeling generally brain damage ill. Every single day I'll have a moment where I'll breathe in and I'll breathe out, and I'll realise that's the beauty of life, is just the experience. Even if the experience isn't what my ego or the representation of who I think I am wants it to be, To experience life is the beauty. To go through hardship is the reality of living. And that's beautiful. And now we haven't been together for... you know what? It's weird. 2 or 3 years. I know that sounds crazy to not know. But I can't remember. Think about her every day. And actually I'll get into this quick. I went into Brighton, I went to university, and I had a lot of female attention while I was there. A daily basis female attention. I've never had this before. Obviously I had her for so many years, and I was bedbound. And now I'm in a city walking about, and every single day I'm having girls flirt with me or try and date me, or whatever the case may be. And I just didn't take the bait. I realised that lust isn't the answer, and I've just learnt a lot. I've still not ever been with another woman. And there was a time where I was like, oh, what? I want to be with a woman sometime. But, if it never happens again, it never happens again. I experienced love on such a deep level that I experienced the foundation of what that feels like. Yeah, I haven't had kids and stuff, and if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. But yeah, hardship makes you strong. And I'm stronger. No doubt. I'm a stronger man because of all these experiences. And this is just, the surface level, isn't it? But now I sit here, someone that can breathe while having migraine and just blurry vision and everything and tinnitus and feel joy and general joy, because I understand that I viscerally understand that you just don't choose what happens to you in life, and you just choose how you react to it, and how you react to it will be your life. And don't be afraid. If you continue on the right path and you just don't forget who you are, you keep going back to who you generally are, and I believe that every human being ultimately is good. Unless you have neurological things that make you just like, oh damn. But it's still, they don't want to do that, do they? But yeah, and here I am now, tired from his story. So, hardships happen, and this video will put into context, if you watch it, how I approach everything else I'll be talking about society and about how things are going to be shifting and my perspective on things, because I guess these things do create wiseness, and wiseness isn't something that you can never really look at subjectively. You got to look at it objectively, and I see that, yeah, and I see that is a part of me, and I love humans so much that I will put this information across of how I view life and see things going with love. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Where's that spider? I don't know. I'm gonna become Spider-Man.